bird on a tree. I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small.
Hello, my name is Rick Warner. I am the lead investigator, tech manager, and the director of client relations for Found Detectives, a paranormal investigation team. And I have with me today Natasha. Did I pronounce that correctly? Okay, good. And she is the chef for the Bloom Southern Kitchen, located in Chester Springs, Pennsylvania. So what I want to do, I'm just going to go through and ask you a few questions. And let's just start out with, how did you get started in the restaurant business?
I was pulled in by a chef. He pulled me in off of, I was a waitress and I was a bad one, and he pulled me off the front of house and put me in the back of house. And he
Now, when you say you were a bad waitress,
I was. Poor.
Like what happened?
Was a poor waitress.
You were a poor waitress.
I spilled soup on someone. That would probably be anyone's worst nightmare. Knocked a glass over on somebody.
Yeah.
I was very young.
And were you just having a bad day? Were you just nervous?
I just was bad. I was a terrible waitress.
Oh, okay. Well, that's very honest of you to come forth with that. Okay, so let's talk about, after that happened, he pulled you out of that, and then what happened next?
He put me into the kitchen and he mentored me for 8 years. He was my chef mentor for 8 years, and I learned everything from him, basically. The rest is history.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he taught you everything you needed to know about being a chef. I mean, were there any, did you have to study any kind of classes or anything at all? Did you go to school about
No,
that?
I wish I could have afforded to do that, but I never was able to. It's pretty expensive to go to culinary school.
Okay.
So I did learn probably as much as I would have in school, but over a greater length of time, and I didn't pay for it.
Okay.
And I got a great education. So
what kind of meals were you learning to cook when you got started?
He taught me everything from catering to small restaurant service to 24-hour food service to, we opened up a restaurant together. I mean, there was a whole span of knowledge that I got. He took me everywhere that he went. I was basically his sous chef for 8 years.
Oh, okay.
And I learned so much. I was so very fortunate.
Well, I think sometimes too, that hands-on experience is sometimes better. It's something you just can't learn out of a book.
No.
You need that hands-on,
working
with the food, working with the patrons of the restaurant, that kind of thing.
Yes. And he taught me a lot.
That's great.
It's amazing.
So fast forward, coming here to the Bloom Southern Kitchen. So tell me, how did all that come about?
Well, I was born and raised in California, and I was brought out here to Pennsylvania to open a restaurant with a friend of mine. And I took a detour and worked for a food wholesale company for a hot minute, and then COVID hit, and I ended up being unemployed, and I needed to find work. So I was looking for work, and I happened to be very good friends with the owner of this restaurant group. And
sometimes that helps, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I didn't realize that this was a project he was working on, but what I approached him on was something completely different. It was a conversation based around my need to find work, and in that moment he said to me, I have an opportunity for you, and I would love for you to consider being my chef. And I thought about it 24 hours, and I couldn't say no, and I've been his chef ever since. So
tell me about this restaurant. What type of cuisine do you guys? Southern kitchen. I mean,
it is.
Southern food. So can you go more in detail about
Yes.
like what type of patrons that you served and what you served to?
Yes, absolutely. So it is Southern food, but it's got a twist in that we are bringing in our own creative style behind it. The inspiration, I would say, from a culinary perspective, is a chef named Sean Brock. He does everything from scratch, and he has brought the finest ingredients into very simple cooking. And his plate up and his start to finish product is admirable. He's got several restaurants. He's incredibly talented, and I try to bring the same style and level of cooking to this restaurant, as well as my own California background.
Yeah.
So it's, squash blossoms with tasso ham.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, so
Yes.
I take you sound like you really like working here.
I
and
do.
Being a
I love
part
it.
of the team. And
I do.
everything.
I love it.
So that's great. So well, let's talk about the history of the Bloom Southern Kitchen. So before it became a restaurant, what can you tell me about the history? How old is this building?
I don't specifically know a lot about this building. I know little parts. I believe it was built in the 1700s.
Okay.
I know that it was a tavern at one point. I believe that there was probably some brothel activity at some point within the building.
Yeah, okay. And that
and-
all makes sense too from what I heard in the investigation that we conducted as well too.
Yeah,
So,
I believe that was probably part of it. I believe there was a fire at one point in this, and it probably took down a good amount of the structure, but they rebuilt it. There's also an underground railroad entrance at the basement level of the building. Other than that, I don't really know a lot of the history. When we took it over, it was still Eagle Tavern. And we tried to respect the history behind the building and keep a lot of the original artifacts, let's just say, as part of the building as we created our own restaurant within. So there's a lot of history here.
So when you say railroad, okay, and I'm trying to picture this, now is this railroad, did it actually go underneath the
Yes.
building? Was there some kind of a tunnel system?
Yes, to my knowledge, yes.
Okay.
I
so
don't
it was,
know the history 100%, but I do know there's an access in the
Okay.
basement, and from what I understand, it did go into the south.
Okay, and can you see any tracks there, or has that been totally closed off?
It has been closed off. I don't go to that specific part of the building. It freaks me out.
Okay, okay.
It is the one area of this building that I will not cross.
Well, when you first gave us a tour, and I should mention that, talk about that too. So I remember when I came here with my team, and it was Joshua who found out about this place, who is the director and founder.
Mm-hmm.
And then also present was Melissa Ferranzano, the psychic medium for the team, and then myself, the investigator. And you showed us around the place and things. And then I remember when we went down to, I guess you would say the lowest level basement, because I know you have that lower basement where you have these really old walls.
Mhm.
You can just see that it's like the original
Foundation.
plaster walls into concrete and everything. It's really, really old. And I remember when we went down the concrete steps to go down to this lower basement, and right away I noticed there was this like feeling of being overcome with like all your energy is just being zapped,
Yeah.
and you feel like this tightness around your chest. You feel like something doesn't feel right here. I felt like
Correct.
there was pure negative energy.
Correct. Yes.
Like, and I figured that, either there's something either demonic down here, or there was someone here that had that resides in this basement area who was a very negative
Yes.
person, a very evil person when
Yeah.
they were alive.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
I
I remember that.
I don't know what it was down there. I suspect, we all can only surmise what an Underground Railroad situation was, but I assume that negative energy comes from what it was. I don't know if
Yeah.
it was one individual in particular, or if it was simply the fact that it was just a negative overall scenario for many people.
Yeah,
But it's frightening to me. I have a very strong sense of smell, and one thing that really affected me when I went down those stairs was I immediately smelled something that did not belong, and it didn't make sense.
was it like kind of like a rotted flesh kind of smell?
Patchouli was immediately what I said. This is what it smells like
Oh,
in my
okay,
brain, and I
okay.
don't know if that means anything.
So
but-
you're familiar with that scent,
Yes.
Julia?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know
Yeah.
if that, it could
Yeah.
have been something else. I don't know. But that smell, there was no reason for it down there. There hadn't been anyone in the building since COVID. We were the first ones to have the keys. There wasn't like there had been any traffic in the building. It was myself, my sister. We got the keys straight from COVID. This building had been shut down for months.
Yeah.
There was no reason for that smell. None.
And I think too, because a lot of the moisture being trapped,
Sure.
and there's some areas that leak here and there, and you can see some black mold growth
Yes.
and things like that, which isn't
100%.
really the healthiest thing to be breathing
No.
down there anyway. It's
No.
probably best if you're going to be down there for any length of time to have some kind of a face mask or
Yes.
a respirator, so
Well,
you're not getting all that in your
We
lungs.
don't spend a lot of time down there, but I definitely, that my point of saying I have a strong sense of smell was that because that I would relate the obvious to a scent. Like if you see the mold, you're gonna know that the mold smells or rot or whatever.
Yeah.
But that, in particular, that smell was not. It didn't belong. It didn't belong,
Yeah.
and it just freaked me out. And I stopped, backed up, walked away. I was like, I'm not going down there.
So tell me about your personal experiences with any paranormal activity. Have you yourself experienced or seen any shadow figures or
No.
spirit entities, heard anything or anything like that?
I haven't
yourself?
heard anything. I wish I have. I wish I could say I've seen stuff, but I haven't.
Yeah. And of course, just because you don't see it, experience it, doesn't mean it
it's-
doesn't exist.
Yes. The only two things that I've been told things by other people, but the only two things that I personally have experienced was one in the kitchen level of the restaurant. There was a shattering of plates overnight. I was the first one in the building in the morning, came up the stairs into the main level of the kitchen, and there was a spray of glass across the floor that shouldn't have happened because of the distance from the original location of the plate to where it would have landed. It wouldn't have fallen. In other words, there would have been a trajectory of glass. It was as if it had been thrown. It was about 5 to 6 feet in distance between where the stack of plates was and where the glass was.
So it can't be debunked as some plates that were maybe overstacked
No.
and then just kind of fell
No,
off.
absolutely
So
not.
this was actually something deliberately threw it,
That's what it
from
looked
where it
like.
was.
Yes,
Okay.
that's
And it wasn't, it wasn't anybody that said, hey, I dropped a plate or I
No.
dropped some plates, nothing
Mm-mm.
like that.
No.
So nothing that could debunk that as to what
No,
happened.
because I closed that night, so I was there up until the very end. So I was walking out with my team at the end of the night, and had somebody behind me dropped a glass plate, number one would have heard it, and number two, they would have cleaned it up. My team was
Yeah.
excellent, so no, that wouldn't have been the case, and there was nobody
Was there
else.
any
in the
employees
building.
that were in the path of this when this happened? Would
No.
anybody, no one got hurt, anything
No,
like that?
no. It happened overnight. So that was one incident, and then the other incident was we have security cameras in film up in the office, and there was a movement in the basement that was picked up on on film, and it was irregular. It didn't have any like moth pattern or mouse pattern or breeze blowing a piece of plastic around on the floor. It was zipping and irregular movement. And I went down there, turned all the lights on, I went down there, and I didn't see anything, which was bizarre because it looked like there had to have been something down there. So I turned all the lights off, came back upstairs to the office, looked at the camera again, and it was going. And it went and went and went all morning long until the my woman that works in the mornings that does prep, she turned all the basement lights on and it was gone. Then I have it on my phone in film. It was crazy. Like, it didn't make sense.
Yeah. So are you saying that the plates that fell off that was or wasn't captured on video?
I don't have video of it. I have pictures
of
the actual shattering of the plates. The glass remnants. I have pictures of that, and then I have film of the security camera footage that I saw upstairs. That I actually have film of. But the glass I just took pictures of because it was crazy and weird.
Oh, okay. So you played back the video footage. You didn't see anything that showed.
No.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
So bizarre.
So was this there? So you were probably wondering why that wasn't picked up on video, right? On the camera setup, or?
You mean the shattering, the glass?
Mm-hmm.
There's no camera where that happened.
Okay, so there wasn't a camera there that would have picked that up. Okay,
no,
well that makes sense.
I wish there had been, but no. Mm-mm.
So, tell me about some of the employees here and what kind of experience they've shared with you or amongst each other, as far as like what kind of activity have they picked up?
We have, I would say, a majority of the activity that I would find to be legitimate, concerning legitimate situations, was the contractors. When we were doing the renovations here, we're hearing things that shouldn't have been. And because we were in the building by ourselves at that point, they would assume it was me making noise when I wasn't even in the building.
Yeah.
They would primarily hear activity in the kitchen area. And that's right above the basement. So that's right above the Underground Railroad entrance.
So what kind of sounds, like how would you describe it? Was it somebody talking?
Falling, something spinning, like they would hear a sound and come into the kitchen and something would just be moving for like a squeeze bottle would just, as if somebody had knocked it and it just wobbled. It would be a sound to the point where they thought, oh, Natasha's in the kitchen.
Yeah. And
I wasn't. And then I would come in and they would tell me about it. But as far as the employees go, a lot of it, I feel like they're kind of just like, oh, the door's closed behind me. It's an old building, doors do that. Like,
yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, okay? There's sometimes things that could be explained.
Yes.
For an example, like, let's say, you have some lights that are flashing on and off, okay? Mm-hmm. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's something paranormal, right, or something going on with the TV on and off. That could be sometimes explained to something electrical that's mm-hmm. causing that. Or if you have a door that's open and as soon as you open it, it wants to close. Mm-hmm. The door frame might be out of plumb that makes the door lean, that wants to close, that can cause that. Maybe there's noises that are heard inside the walls. Mm-hmm. Sometimes rodents will get back there. Mm-hmm. And they could, chew wires. They could crawl back there, mm-hmm. and I've heard it myself behind the wall, so I know firsthand. So sometimes you have to look at the evidence as it's presented, but if you can debunk certain sounds, certain things that happen, then that leaves you with a possibility of some paranormal activity.
Right.
Now, tell me if you know about, because this was mentioned to us that, and I'll go into more later what we had picked up in some of our sessions, but there's a guy, a male, with a mustache, and who wears a top hat. Do you recall anything about that? Someone talking to you about that?
When you guys were here after you left, the next day, they were the team that was with you told me about him. I hadn't heard of anything up until that point.
Okay.
That specific.
No, what about the name Marianne?
Yes, Marianne. That ghost is kind of notorious with this place. There's a lot of people that have worked here previous to when it was Eagle Tavern that have mentioned her to us.
Yeah.
I personally haven't ever had any kind of interaction with Marianne or known of any. It could have been her making weird things happen in the basement. I don't know, but I have never.
Yeah.
I have heard her name though. She apparently got beheaded at some point. I think that was the one that got beheaded. There was a woman that got beheaded that is the ghost, one of the ghosts here.
Okay, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that was Marianne. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
You know, so I'll tell you what, you know, coming into, you know, just recently we conducted a paranormal
Yes.
investigation here. So for the people that are watching this interview, I'll explain a few things. So we came in with our team. We arrived here about 9:30, and we came in through the back entrance, going down the concrete steps, and we were setting up our equipment into one room, the cooler room. So it was really, you know, quite interesting down there. And once we started setting things up through different places, we noticed that, you know, we had some devices that were being set off.
Mm-hmm.
There's this one device that is called a paralantern, which basically it's think of a lantern with colored bands of, it's like the same colored rings, different color spectrum of rings. And when something paranormal sets it off, or if I put my hand on it and touch it, there's an antenna connected to it. And the way it works is what's called a REM pod device. REM, it stands for radiating electromagneticity. And if you move your hand close to that field where the antenna is, you can set off the device.
Okay.
Or if you touch it, you could set off the device. Then you can hear, like in our case, the paralantern, there's different songs you can select that it'll play, and you'll hear like it beeping, and it'll go, the colored bands will light up and down as you're watching it, hearing it going off. And there were several times that none of our team had touched that or got near it. So we knew that it wasn't us that was setting that off.
Yeah.
And so we got some activity there. And another really interesting thing is, so we did what's called a spirit box session. And our particular method that we have, that's our kind of own signature type of way of doing a spirit box session, is called the Chairs-Warner method, named after Joshua Chairs, our director, and Rick Warner, myself as the investigator. So the Chairs-Warner spirit box session. And what that involves is we take our psychic medium, we have her seated into a chair, and we connect a pair of headphones to her. The headphones are connected into what is very similar to an AM/FM radio, but it's a little different. We're like, normally when you turn on an AM/FM portable radio, you digitally go to different channels. You'll go to AM channels, you'll go to FM channel until you find a song that you want to listen to. And what this does is it'll scan whatever you select, like if you select AM or FM. We usually use FM because the channels usually come in a little more cleanly, and it'll just sweep automatically. You choose what speeds you want to go forward and back. And the idea is that we will take turns asking a series of questions to the spirit world to either get like a word or a sentence. maybe their name. Like we ask, what is your name? And we're hoping that that name will appear on our digital recorder as we're recording it. So, so then the other thing is that the reason for the headphones is, and being that she's plugged into that, she can't hear the questions we're asking because we don't want her to hear the questions. Because we don't want to influence what her answers are.
Sure.
We want it to be that, she doesn't hear what we're saying, because if she hears us asking a question and then she answers, then it doesn't establish much credibility to it, because she's just answering based on what we're asking.
Sure.
But if you get a compelling answer that makes sense, and she can't hear the question you're asking, and it matches up with the question you asked, now you're left with something very compelling. So, so Joshua and I would take turns asking questions, and we have two methods of doing it too. So one method is, an older method we had was where she had a blindfold on and she can't see anything. And then we have another one now that we use called the Delco glasses, which it's like these glasses that light up around her eyes, and it's almost like you're looking into an orange cloud in the middle of nowhere, and it makes you feel kind of disoriented. You can't see anyone, you can't see anything in the room, and it's almost like you're in this nowhere land of this orange light. And then the other method, which we use in this case, is she can't see us, but she's actually looking into what's called a scrying mirror. And it's actually a black mirror, a pretty scary looking mirror at that. And she looks into this mirror and it's pitch black. And as we're asking questions, she's looking for any spirit activity that's coming through this mirror. Sometimes she'll see maybe herself there, not like a reflection from the glass, because it's not like a regular mirror where you see a reflection, because this thing's like total darkness, total black. But it'll be like almost like kind of like a vision, but you see something, and then sometimes she'll pick up something like maybe a spirit or something that's trying to reveal itself. And so as we're asking questions, we find out that we're speaking to a lady, okay? And one of the questions I asked was, were you the lady in the basement that we made contact with doing the dowsing rod session? And she was saying yes, so there was a lady there. And she clearly stated over and over again during the interview that she said, "Help me."
Oh.
And I said, "What do you mean by help?" She's like, "I don't want to be here."
Oh.
And she didn't want to be here, and then she was talking about the gentleman with the top hat, because we had mentioned him.
Okay.
And she said the gentleman with the top hat had a mustache and he smokes. And
He
she
smokes?
said, she said he's a criminal. And I said, "How do you know he's a criminal?" It's like, and she said, it's kind of funny how she said, "Well, it beats me." And I go, "Well, you must have heard something, or someone told you something." And she said, he's basically that he's bad, that he's dangerous, that kind of thing. And that she mentioned that he wanted her to do things that she didn't feel comfortable with. So later on, we start kind of putting things together and when we had talked to Melissa after we finished the session, that she felt that was a lady of the night.
Ah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
So that was a
it makes
Mary Ann.
sense about the brothel. I believe that Mary Ann was this is what she did. She was part of a brothel, basically a prostitute. And but she feared this gentleman, and and it makes me wonder now when you mention a beheading. Maybe she got beheaded.
Well,
or-
Mary Ann supposedly was on a ride with her I don't know if he was a husband or somebody was courting her, but she was on some sort of a ride with him, and they went into a barbed wire fence, and that cut her. That's the story.
Okay.
That's
Were they,
not,
they were riding up like
they
what?
were riding around here
The
somewhere.
carriage or on a horse?
Carriage of some sort of,
And they didn't see it?
yeah,
And
cut her
just-
head, yes.
okay.
So that I don't know if that's fact.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
What you
And
heard?
Marianne, but the smoking gentleman, we smell cigarettes all the time for no
Wow,
reason.
okay.
So
there you go.
there's a like I said, my sense of smell is pretty strong, but it's not just me. It's when we're in the room, when we're in the building by ourselves, and it's usually myself and one other person, we will smell, and it's strong. It's as if somebody is inside the building smoking. And there's nobody on the exterior, there's no one on the perimeter, there's no
Yes.
car parked in the lot with somebody having a cigarette. There's nothing. That just happens all the time. That's so crazy.
Yeah, so that kind of makes sense now.
It does.
That kind of ties everything together. Well, one of the things we're doing also in the basement, where we've got a lot of paranormal activity, is we use what's called dowsing rods. And dowsing rods, people use those to find water or minerals, things like that, sometimes like some precious metals and things. And the really old dowsing rods would be like just a tree branch, and somebody would hold it, and then it's like a Y-shaped thing, and then it would like kind of point to where. So these are actually copper dowsing rods that are in a sleeve, so they turn. You have a handle. They're like L-shaped, and so you hold the dowsing rods at your side 90 degrees, and they swivel in this handle. So they don't, you don't hold it. If you hold it too tight, it doesn't keep it from moving because it's sitting in the sleeve. And we also have we call these electric dowsing rods, because we found out before, if you use this regular copper dowsing rods and you're filming, especially in the dark, it's very hard to capture these dowsing rods to appear in your video. So the electric ones we actually can change different colored neon lights, and the neon light runs through a tube that goes all the way down the copper rod, so we can make it blue or red or green or what have you. So we had selected the green color, and it was very visual. And what we're doing now is asking any spirit or spirits that are present yes or no questions, and like a yes answer would be like, is there any spirits present with us here today?
Okay.
If so, if yes, cross the dowsing rods forward. If no, move the dowsing rods towards our shoulder. So we actually picked up a lot of activity, that there was more than one spirit present. We also asked, if you're not okay with us being here today, in other words, you don't want us here, please cross the dowsing rods forward, and they cross forward.
Oh.
So it was made very clear that one or more spirits didn't want us there. Now sometimes you have when you have spirits that passed away some at a particular time, sometimes you could just have one spirit that's present, sometimes more than one, and you could have, just like people when they're alive, people that are very warm, very welcoming, good personalities kind of thing. And the same thing, when they pass away. And then just like, when they pass away, they're warm and welcoming, and they're okay with you being there. And then you could have maybe somebody, when they were alive, they had an evil side to them. Maybe they committed some serious crimes, murder or a rape or what have you. And when they pass away, they're still that same evil person now,
Sure.
but they're just passed on as a spirit, and then that negative energy is still with them. So, but yeah, we were definitely getting a lot of activity, and we found out that we had the gentleman with the top hat that had the mustache I mentioned earlier that was there in that basement. And we also got activity that the female was there as well. And same thing, we were using a crystal pendulum to ask yes or no questions. It's on a round board called a spirit board, which isn't the same as the Ouija board, but it has like forward and back. The pendulum would swing yes for forward and back. If it swings left to right or east to west, then that's the no answer kind of thing. So it was really quite compelling as far as that activity.
I believe it.
That we picked up. And one thing I want to mention that I want to kind of finish up with here is when we completed the investigation, and we still have evidence review that we have to do because we did an EVP session where we have our digital recorders on, and also during the spirit box session we had our digital recorders on. So we'll go back and review that at a later time with our headphones on and see if we could pick up any patterns of words, maybe like, get out or leave this place or whatever, or their name or something like that. We're looking for a word or sentence. Sometimes you can hear something and it doesn't sound like one of us, but we can't hear exactly what they said. And then other times you can get a real clear word, or clear name, or like help me or something like that, and everybody kind of hears the same thing. So, but when we were packing up our equipment, and I remember we were taking stuff out and loading up, and I'd asked Melissa to help me load up some of my equipment because I had these big rolling chests that were pretty heavy, and since the concrete steps are pretty big,
They're steep,
it's kind of hard going down and going up. So I had asked Melissa to help me, get on the other end, help me push up some of the equipment. And I remember when I came back down to get more equipment, the light was completely dark. So my first thing was, since Joshua was going around turning off lights, I just thought maybe he shut off the light. Well, I noticed right on the inside of the wall, there's a light switch. It was in the off position. So I turned it back on. So then we grab some equipment, we leave again, come back out by the parking lot area, load up some equipment, go back down, and the light's off again. Go back down.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And this time, instead of the light switch being in the down position, like when you flip the switch down to turn the light off, the light was off, but the switch was still up.
Jeez.
So I switched it down in the down position, and then the light came on. Then the third time, it's happened 3 times, we're in another room, and I asked Josh, and let's ask him as well, did you do this? Did you go through, did you turn off the lights? He said, no, I didn't touch them. So I thought, wow, we're like blown away, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So we're in the other room where we had our stuff, and all of a sudden, the lights go off again. And there was no one there that walked over and touched a switch or did anything. And we're thinking like, okay, I don't know why, but I was kind of, and I'm not a psychic medium, but I kind of felt like it was the gentleman with the top hat, and he was kind of pissed off and angry, because I kind of, during the Cher's Warner Spirit Box session, I kind of confronted him like, what are you doing? Like, why are you making this lady, installing fear in her? What are you doing to her? Quit doing that. It's not nice to make her feel that way. She's making her scared. Why don't you just leave her alone, kind of thing. And I think it was him letting us know he's like pissed off by screwing with the lights.
It might be, yeah.
So, and I don't know for sure, but I definitely know it had to be something paranormal, unless you had some kind of electrical issues down there, or has anybody reported that light going on and off?
No.
Yeah, so that was just crazy.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot. And I because the kitchen is right above that area. I just know that there's a lot that happens down there.
Yeah,
There's-
yeah.
It's undeniable that
Yeah.
it's happening down there. Yeah.
Well, I just want to say, thank you for giving me the
Of course.
opportunity
Thank you for
to
sharing.
conduct this interview with you. And but before I turn off the video here, so how can people find this restaurant? Like,
Well, we have a big, beautiful flower mural on the side of the building, and the address is very easy to remember. It's 123 Pottstown Pike, Chester Springs.
okay,
So-
yeah, yeah, okay. So yeah, you heard that, and that is the Bloom Southern Kitchen. So at first I was calling it, I was kind of twisting the words and saying Southern Bloom, but it's Bloom Southern Kitchen.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. So for those of you who are watching, it's a beautiful restaurant with great food, and I've eaten here before myself, and I gotta tell you
Bird
that
on a tree.
everyone that works here, it's service with a smile. Service is great, food is great. When you get a
I
chance,
got time.
come on down to the Bloom Southern Kitchen. Check it out, try it out. You're gonna love the food, you're gonna love the people that work here.
Thank you.